Alright, you bastards, this is Some-Belgian-prepper, and today I want to talk about something that not many preppers make a priority of, but in my opinion, it's something that you should teach to every person, whether they are prepper or not. It's just basic survival in life, and that is danger preventive measurements for things that could happen in the kitchen. Because if you think about it, the kitchen is actually one of the most dangerous places that something could happen. So no matter about the marauders that might come, no matter the zombie outbreak that might happen, no matter the earthquake, although you don't live in an earthquake area, that could happen that you prep for, the most accidents, wounded people, deaths are happening in just every day in the home, and that's actually logical because you spend most of your time in your home, and the kitchen is very dangerous for some number of reasons. You work with sharp tools for cooking, so you could cut yourself. You you could sustain burning wounds because you work with pans with boiling water or pots with boiling water and steam. You work with sometimes electrical appliances. Those are mixed with steam or with water or splashing. That could result into electricity shock. So that's also not good. You sometimes work with, especially when you clean your kitchen well, you could have some chemical burns or poisonings if you use certain products. So these are actually a lot of dangers that could happen. So imagine this is a dangerous place where even your children could reach. So I would advise to teach your children how to work in the kitchen safely because it's very underestimated, and yeah, it's something that I want to talk about. Fire is also one of the things we're going to talk about this in a minute. So uh, what I would say in the first place is organize your kitchen. What do I mean by that? I would say organize in a way that it's more efficient and less prone to danger. For example, this is something that I had a problem with earlier, and here I always keep all my herbs and spices. I used to keep them here in the cupboard, but what happened one day, one of them was a little bit off. I opened it and it fell down. Bam! There is now some shattered glass in my on my cooking plate, and I could have cut myself. There could have been splinters into my hands, perhaps into my eyes even. And it's not only that's just a small example that happened to me. So that's the reason why I keep my herbs and spices organized, that I just have to reach and don't have to get into the cupboard. The same thing goes for if you have pots and pans. Don't keep pots and pans or anything with weight in the upper closets, or however you call this. Because if you have to catch something and it's not properly stored, it could fall onto your hands, onto your head, and that could be really bad. So I would advise heavy stuff always keep in the lower cupboards for your safety. Next thing I would say for your safety is keep electrical appliances away. Some people like to cook with something like electrical, like a mixer, so they would plug it in here, use somewhere here. They take it over here, but there could be a cordage leading to there. You get tangled in it. You could it get tangled with a pot of boiling water. Fell on top of you. There could get water into the mixer or onto the plug-in where the electricity is coming from. Splashing some water, you get electrified. So if you're going to work in the kitchen, keep electrical appliances away from the places with water, like here with the tap and here with the cooking place, where usually these are the two places where water could happening. So that's something that you need to organize in your kitchen in front. Of course, another thing, keep chemical products away from the kitchen. Don't leave it lingering around for several reasons. First of all, you could knock it out and you get some splashes from it, especially when the top is not sealed enough. Splash onto you, chemical burning wounds. Next thing, if some child walk into your kitchen and thinks, "Oh, that seems like a lovely blue color," and drinks of it, gets poisoned. So keep it away, stored away, out of sight, where it's not where it's not good to be taken. And for children, I would say keep it in the back and keep it in the front. Some other things that shield it off and make it less appealing or less interesting for children and walking around. Uh, Another thing I would say is use your knives and your sharp kitchen tools like you would do with a gun. Never point it at something that you do not want to hit or cut. Learn how to cut it on a safe way. Don't start to chop it. Do it on a safe way. Your fingers away from it. Learn how to work with your tools. And always, and another thing with sharp tools is keep your mind at it. Sometimes I see people who have their laptop, their iPad, their television in their kitchen so they can have something to watch while they're cooking. I would say if you want to do that, no problem. But if you're going to do that, I would say it's not really handy to be diverse your attention while you're using something. You're watching TV and you get chaka, you cut into your finger, or even worse. So I would say keep a radio, or if you're going to use an iPad, play something that you do not have to keep watching. You listen to a documentary or an interview and keep it shielded away so that you're not distracted by images. So turn the iPad or laptop away from that you are not distracted by it while you're using sharp tools. Another thing is be aware for fires, because kitchen is a dangerous place for fire. You could work with gas stoves, you could work with electrical stoves that have problems. When there is a shortage in electricity by some water, could also create some sparks. Perhaps you work with alcohols or some other foods that have some burning, can have a lower burning temperature and get around into your kitchen. Could always happen. So, what can we do about it? First of all, for the fire, I would advise to not. I would advise a fire blanket and a fire extinguisher, uh, because if you have a regular fire, you can use a fire extinguisher. I would use CO2 powder, but for something like an oil fire, if you bake fries or frying something, or you have oils or some other things that are hard to extinguish, you have a fire blanket, and what you want to do with a fire blanket is an extinguisher. Don't keep it in your kitchen area or in the cupboards, because if a fire breaks out over here and your fire extinguisher is just next to it, you have to get close to the flames and you might get burned or get burned by radiated heat. So I would always advise keep it in the corner of the kitchen that you can still run away and get it and don't have to get close to the fire. In my case, I keep it like close at the door, and that's where I keep a fire extinguisher and a fire blanket. We all know how this works. You pull it out. Imagine if there is a fire over here. You pull it out and you do not throw it onto the oil fire. Why? Because if you throw it onto the oil fire and you miss, then it's only partially extinguished or could flame again. So what you want to do is fold the fire blanket around your hands so that your hands are not beneath the fire blanket so they don't get burnt. So put it around your hands and lay it on top of the fire. That way your hands are protected and you make a good closure from oxygen with the oil fire, which is the best way to extinguish an oil fire, which could happen very well around the kitchen. The next thing I would keep in my kitchen is a Israeli bandage or something, or just a towel. And I would say keep it close. What do I mean by that? A towel is something that I put it usually around this. So I can just grab the towel if I cut myself and put my towel on top of it to stop the bleeding. But I would also keep Israeli bandages, because if you have a big cut, perhaps an artery cut, or God beware, aorta cut, you have something between a tourniquet and a pressure bandages. This can just put around you and pull strong on, and then you can seek professional medical help, because these things happen a lot, and it's always handy to have this close by, because if you cut yourself here, but your first aid kit is somewhere in the garage or somewhere else in the house, those are precious seconds you could lose, and you could bleed out or not think clearly if you bleed profusely. So that's something that I would always keep close by. Next thing in the kitchen is a tip for when you get burnt. I would say always, if you have a pot water and there is something that a lot of people do, and that is one of their pots on the stove is boiling over. What's the first reaction? Take it out the fire. But people, what they usually do is, oh, I won't put this hot pot not onto my stove, and they do not know where to put it on a place where it will not burn the surface of your working area, and that's in those seconds they can burn their hands while it's boiling over onto your fingers. So I would always advise, if you work in the kitchen, always keep a towel onto you, not only for cleaning your hands, but so you can grab a pot without burning your fingers. Alright, the next thing that could happen is, like I said, with the burning area, I would always advise to keep something like this on the table. That is something to put a hot top or a pan on top of it without burning this area. So you can put it on just a regular wooden table or this wooden surface that I have without burning the beneath side of it. And that will make me less inclined to stoop around and look for where I can put it and burning my fingers. Alright. Next thing is if you burn your hands, first of all, what is the first thing you do when you have a burning wound? Water. But there is something you need to take in account, and everybody who learns first aid will learn this. It's not good to put cold water onto a burning wound, because otherwise the tissue could spasm a little bit and could tear more tissue and could create some complications, or it makes the wounds more bad. So I would always advise, whenever you're ready with your tap, I always put it in medium temperature. Not because that's another thing. If you work in the kitchen, you burn yourself, you have your skin burnt, and you want to put water in it. The problem is when it's cold, it can cause some damage. But when you accidentally put it on hot and because you're in panic or in stress, you put it on, you will put even more boiling water onto your hands. So always make it a habit of it to put your tap onto medium warm. That way you will not have too cold water and not boiling water if you're in the stress of the moment, the panic, and you want to cool off your burning wound. Talking about which, if you're done after 10 minutes of cooling the burning wound, I would advise to always keep one of these burning gels close by, so that you don't have to go into the first aid of the garage, and when you have a burning wound, touch some dirty stuff that could infect the wound. So yeah, always keep this in your kitchen close by. The next thing that could happen is when you get something into your eyes. It could be when you're cleaning the kitchen, perhaps you're working with bleach to clean the kitchen and you accidentally squirt or get a splatter of some drops of a chemical product into your eye. There are two things you can do. If you just have a sink like this, what you actually want to do, and it is something that not many people think about, when you want to get to flush all the chemicals from your eye, I would advise to, if it's in your put the eye that is affected on the lower end and flush it then away. In this case, because if for example my left eye is with let us say in this case my right eye is at some splashes with chemicals, I want to flush it out. I would advise to do it like this. Like I said, that the affected eye is lower, because if you do it like this, when the affected eye is higher, you flush your eye with the chemicals, but it will run into the second eye by running down, and that way you can get chemicals also in your other eyes, and you want to avoid that especially. Of course, if both of your eyes are affected, flush them both, but if one eye affected, this is something that you need to take in account. So, and another thing you can do, keep in your kitchen, which I always do, is one of these saline eye baths. It's just saline water. You take this off, and you have an eye bath here, if you can see it. What you do is you put it on the affected eye, you squeeze in the bottle, and that way you can flush your eye very thoroughly to get every of the chemical splatters that are into your eyes, and then you seek professional help, of course. Whenever something happened is stuck in your eye, could be some other things that could be stuck into your eye, like when you work with flour, powdered food substances, and those fly around, get into your eyes, and yeah, you want to flush your eye after that, perhaps. Or you work with spices. We all know if you work with cayenne pepper and you accidentally sneeze something and it's getting into your eye, it could be very annoying, especially when you're fumbling around with sharp objects around in the kitchen. So always know the layout of your kitchen. Another thing that I want to talk about is, if you have a kitchen, if you want to build a kitchen, build it with sunlight in front of it. That way, sunlight, the UV beams will disinfect the surfaces a little bit more, that there is less chance for bacterial growth. If you have a little bit of a darker kitchen, clean it regularly, but also I would always advise, if you're going to cook, use gloves. This is actually for several reasons. If I work with certain foods, I have a lot of foods that I have for my garden or for my animals, and the thing is, if I have a cut in my hands from working around the house or getting from my work, yeah, I do a lot of manual work, so I have a lot of cuts in my hands. So if I work with certain food products, that could get my hands infected. So I prefer to wear some type of glove that will protect the cuts from my hands. You can, even if I have a bandage, that bandage could get wet, get fell off, get something get between, and then it will infect even more. So another thing that could be handy with a glove, especially one of those industrial gloves, some you have to look at the label. Some are a little bit cut resistant, which would be handy with when you're cutting meat and you are afraid that you will cut into your finger. Certain gloves are a little bit cut resistant, like with some Kevlar in it. It's also a little bit depends on the glove, because I don't say all gloves are like this, but if you take something hot off, you will not burn your skin immediately, or if you accidentally get some hot spats of oil or water, boiling water on top of your hands, you will have not be you don't have directly burning wounds. But if you get a whole pot of boiling water, yeah, then the glove could melt and with your skin, and that could be dangerous. So if you're carefully, it could be more beneficial. But yeah, if you fuck it up really bad, then you're really fucked. Just something that you have to keep in mind. And I would also say, there are certain things in the kitchen that I've noticed that are a little bit better. Like if you have one of those scouring sponges, these are made out of copper, and I prefer copper than metal, because here in copper less bacterial will grow, because copper kills pathogens. So yeah, that's another small trick for having a cleaner kitchen. Yeah, I think another thing that perhaps is a good thing that I've seen some people do, and that is have some good footwear. Why? Because you work in a kitchen, you work with slippery oils, you work with, perhaps you have some water falling down onto the ground, and if you work on something slippery, you have no shoes on, your socks, your bare feet, you work with it, you step on it, you slide, you bash your head against the kitchen, and you lay unconscious for 3 days before somebody comes to search you. So that's another thing that you need to watch out for. So I always wear, when I'm in the house, I always wear a certain slippers with a good surface beneath it that will have some grip on the floor, even when I spill something with oils, slippery or something like that. So that's another another danger that you have to actually think about in the kitchen. All right. Another thing that could happen in the kitchen is allergies. Some people are allergic to certain stuff. So when somebody comes to eat with you, perhaps it's a person that that eats with you for the first time, or somebody who has not told you that they have certain allergies. If you have food groups, keep them in closed containers and keep them in place and keep some etiquettes on top of it, so you know what's inside of it, so that you do not mix something with peanuts that you did not know that was inside of it. So, like, for example, this could be a stupid example, but you think, this seems delicious. Oh no, it contains peanuts, and that person accidentally gets an allergic reaction, and that could be a big problem. Perhaps some child who is allergic to certain things don't recognize something. So to keep your foodwares in a closed container, label them with what's inside of it, and put them somewhere in the closets where they are not directly visible. So yeah, those are some things that you can do to save some poisonings or allergic reactions. Uh, I think I'm ready now. If you have some other tips or risks that could happen or be used in the kitchen, please let me know in the comments. I'm always eager to learn. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and stay safe in the kitchen. Bon appetit.